Okay, so let's unpack this one. Today's deep dive is taking us into a really interesting Japanese fantasy franchise, the Unwanted Undead Adventurer.
That's right.
We've got articles, reviews, notes you sent over covering the light novel, the manga, and the anime.
Yep, the whole spectrum.
So our mission today, figure out why this story clicks, look at its, well, pretty unique mechanics, and help you decide which version might be the best fit for you.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so at the core, we have Rent Faina. He's 25, an adventurer, but he's been stuck at the lowest copper rank for, like, a decade.
Yeah, think of him as sort of almost a fantasy world salaryman, kind of ground down by the routine.
Exactly, just trying to get by, and his, well, a pretty unremarkable life gets completely flipped when he's eaten by a dragon, a legendary one.
Doesn't get much more shocking than that.
But he doesn't stay dead. He wakes up as a sentient skeleton. And that kicks off this whole quest for existential evolution, basically trying to become human again.
And what's so interesting right off the bat is how that whole premise just flips the usual power fantasy trope, you know? It starts with this really relatable feeling of being stuck, of having to, like, rebuild yourself from scratch. It's about growth, not just grabbing power. Big hook.
And it all happens in this world, Malt. It feels pretty grounded for fantasy, centered around this place called the Labyrinth of the Moon's Reflection.
Right.
And it avoids just generic fantasy stuff. It actually gets into the nitty-gritty, like how the Adventurers Guild works, the bureaucracy.
Yeah, the little detail.
Or even like explaining the goo from new slimes. Apparently, it's a key ingredient in cosmetics in their world.
And see, that level of detail, it makes Malt feel less like a painted backdrop and more like a real functioning place, right?
Truly.
Which makes Rent's whole struggle, his weird existence, feel much more real. You actually care about the stakes.
Now, that dragon that eats him, the notes mention it's a legendary dragon with angel wings. That feels kind of significant.
More than just a random beast.
And when he comes back as a skeleton, he keeps his mind, but he can also absorb something called divinity spirit from monsters he defeats.
Which is described as, like, the concentrated life force or spiritual energy monsters use to evolve themselves.
Right.
Yeah, and that detail, the angel wings plus this divinity spirit idea, it really hints that maybe his death and rebirth weren't just, bad luck.
Like some cosmic thing.
Could be. Something fated, maybe. It adds this whole other layer to why he's unwanted, but also perhaps important.
Okay, but here's the really unique part, the thing that sets it apart. This existential evolution system.
Ah, yes, the core mechanic.
It's not just leveling up. He has to fundamentally change his entire being, relearn everything from the ground up, as then would say.
Profound, yeah.
He goes from skeleton, absorbs divinity spirit, becomes a ghoul, then a ghast, aiming eventually for vampire, and maybe beyond.
And it's not easy.
Not at all. We see the practical problems of being a skeleton, like how do you lift a heavy sword with no muscles? Just bone.
Right. Or the psychological stuff, the urges.
Yeah, the notes mention his cannibalistic urges when he becomes a ghast. It's pretty grim.
And balancing that, the gritty reality and internal conflict with this fantastical evolution, it's tricky.
So how does it work narratively?
Well, the key is that the progression feels earned. It's gradual. He struggles with real physical limits, real mental battles. So each step forward feels significant, feels human, ironically, even though he's becoming more monstrous.
Okay, so that brings us to the different ways to experience this story, because apparently that matters a lot here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The original light novel is where it all started. It's the most detailed, the source, but also seems to be the most divisive.
People have strong feeling.
Reviewers talk about verbose, rambling, repetitive prose.
Yeah.
Like the author taking 6 to 8 pages just monologuing details sometimes. A web novel hangover, maybe.
That's exactly it. And it's fascinating, right? How a style choice, born from one format, the web novel needing padding, maybe becomes this huge barrier for some readers, even with a great core story.
So format really dictates the experience.
Absolutely. It can shape everything.
But then contrasting that, you have the manga adaptation.
Yeah.
And this seems widely liked.
Much more accessible.
Praised for streamlining everything, cutting down those walls of text, but staying very faithful overall. It translates well visually.
It finds that balance, keeps the story, loses the excessive rambling.
And then there's the anime. Studio Connect handled it. Seems like it was considered a bit of a sleeper hit.
It really found an audience.
Apparently, it does a good job cutting Rent's internal monologues down, balancing the action and the introspection. And that dragon in episode 1, described as horrifying and beautiful.
They nailed the visuals on that.
And it clearly worked. Season 2's already announced, looks like, for 2025.
Which is great news. And zooming out, the success of the manga and anime, it really shows that the core story, Ren's journey, the unique world, the evolution, it's incredibly strong.
Right.
The visual formats just figured out how to present it best, getting past that initial hurdle of the light novel style.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this mean for you if you're curious about this world?
Decisions.
Well, if you're a total purist or you love digging into every single lore detail, the light novel has the most depth. Just, be ready for a very dense read.
Patience required.
For something more balanced, efficient, visually appealing, the manga seems like a really solid choice. Streamlined, faithful.
Good middle ground.
And if you're maybe more of a casual viewer or just want an easy entry point that focuses on the character, the anime is highly recommended, especially Season 2 coming.
Definitely the most accessible starting point right now.
So lots of options.
It does make you wonder, though, in this ocean of content we have now, how many other really great stories are out there just waiting for the right adaptation or the right medium to really let them shine?
That's a great question. Something to think about, definitely.
For sure.
Well, that's something to ponder as you decide which version of Rent Faina's very unusual journey you want to take. Until next time, keep diving deep.